Welcome to the Happy Soul Podcast. My name is Melissa, and this is Sammy. We are diving deep into conversations that connect and inspire. Stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation. Stories that take us to the heart of human connection. Please note that opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect those of this podcast. Please listen with your kindness and an open mind. Each story shared is authentic and vulnerable. Let's embrace our differences with empathy, knowing every voice enriches us. Together, let's cultivate a community of respect and curiosity. Thank you for listening. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to be inspired. Welcome back to the Happy Soul Podcast, everybody. Today, we are wrapping up our September Childhood Cancer Awareness mini-series. It is Sam and I just chatting today about all of the things that we have taken away from all of these incredible conversations. Hey, Sammy.
Hey, yo, we're going to get fiery. I mean, I know I am. I am.
Are you feeling fiery tonight?
I'm feeling a little fiery. Yeah. Yeah. About a couple different things. I mean, other things, but like we're pulling it into childhood cancer awareness because that's obviously what we're wrapping up today. But just conversations I've had over the last little while. And I mean, like that reel I made today, you know, you and I both know that we've had people asking like, why are you doing this? It doesn't affect you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, because we fucking want to. And all of the other reasons I said on that reel. But I just want to point this out, okay? If you're not watching the video here, unplanned, completely unplanned. I was wearing, you can't see it in the video, but my hat is my Strong Like Sloan Childhood Cancer Awareness or Childhood Cancer Organization, Strong Like Sloan. And my shirt is my Strong Like Sloan run team from the marathon. And Melissa is wearing her Strong Like Sloan toque. This was not planned. I sent her a message today saying, I'm not dressing up for a recording today. I don't care. I'm wearing what I'm wearing. And she was like, this is what I'm wearing. And she sent me a picture and she was wearing her Strong Like Sloan toque and her Love for Lewiston sweater with his SMA Awareness Month last month. So we are repping here. We are repping today. So.
I didn't even mean to put it together. And I did it. I was just like, my son started hockey. Mm-hmm. And this girl is not acclimatized to being in cold rinks yet. And my body was like, layering all the things and I wasn't planning. And then I looked and I was like, oh, I'm like double repping here. Okay. Somebody asked me about what I'm wearing. Somebody tell me. I'm ready to talk.
I really hope that too. I was riding mine fired up today with because it says the kids get cancer too on the background here. And I'm like pedaling. I was late and I had the trailer on and it was windy. So I was pedaling really hard uphill to get to the school. Not big hill. It's a little hill.
Both ways?
Both ways.
Just kidding.
To get to the school to pick up the kids. And I was like, somebody point out that I'm wearing a shirt that says kids get cancer too, but nobody did. But yeah. So, anyways,
why don't we just start there? Why are you fired up? You are fired up. I can tell you. What's going on?
I'm fired up for a couple of reasons. One, there's this part of the book, The Heart That Works by Rob Delaney that I read the other night. And I was like, yes, I'm going to read it on here today. I was like, yes, this needs to be said. And there's so much stuff he says in that book that is like, this needs to be said and it's not said enough. And I love it. And so I'm going to read this. So I'm fired up about that one. And the other thing I'm fired up on, and if the person that I had this conversation with hears this, I'm sorry. But like we were talking about, I don't remember how this conversation, the derivatives of it, I didn't go back and review it. I just have pieces of it flowing through my head. But I was talking about like doing this Childhood Cancer Awareness Month mini-series, and they said something well-meaning, well-intentioned, said something about, this was in text form, so there's no tone or anything like that here, but something about wondering if like in some ways it's survival of the fittest. And they weren't like saying that like they believe that. It was just like a wondering like is like the government or big pharma or whatever, are they doing it that way? Do you know what I mean? So that person wasn't saying it in that way. It was just like they were kind of saying that. And that thought has just been in my brain all day. I think it was yesterday actually, but it's been in my brain since, and it's making me angry because number one, I mean, I could get into my thoughts about survival of the fittest in a different way, but the reason it makes me angry is because even if it is survival of the fittest, even if it is, let's just say it, let's just pretend it is. Just pretend for 1 second. Humor me. If you're mad at me right now, just finish this. Let me finish this sentence before you turn this recording off. Let's just pretend it is. The old people are not fitter than the children. So even if it is survival of the fittest,
doesn't make any sense.
You're picking the wrong end. I don't.
That doesn't make any sense. That is a complete. I now I know where you're fired up because I need a hot second here.
So that's why I'm fired up.
I could see that being stuck in your head for a while because I think sometimes people think that like illness exists in order to control our population or something to that nature. Like I've heard people talk like that before. And I just think, I think a lot of things I mean,
it doesn't. Okay, this is going to get really harsh here and people are going to hate this, but it's fine. It doesn't exist as population control. In general animals, that is population control. That's how it works. Because we've evolved and we've been able to overcome so many diseases, I don't think we get to pick and choose which ones we decide become population control or not. Either fix them all or fix none of them. Like, just pick one. Do you know what I mean? Like, I say this and like lots of people I know, including myself, would be dead by now if not for medical intervention. So I'm not like saying that. I'm just saying like yeah, exactly. If you're going to fix them, like I don't know. It's information that's beyond my knowledge and I really wish I could understand it. And everybody says different things about like there's no money to be made in childhood cancer and big pharma's making these choices. And I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, it makes me angry that kids are so left behind.
Kids are paying the price for it. Whatever the it is, if it's legislation, if it's like this whole thing with like when we were talking to Catherine about when we were reading the Brain Cancer Canada website and they were talking about the lagging behind of like there is stuff that has been approved and people just don't have access to it. That whole shit, that is fucked up. It's our podcast. I'll swear if I want to. Sorry, Mom. That's really fucked up. Like these are the children that are paying the price for this. And it almost goes back to like what I was saying about when we were talking about Candace and about how I was saying it's really easy for somebody to sit in an office with pen and paper and go home at night and put an issue on the back burner because it's not affecting them, because it's not hard for them to lift their hand to their mouth to feed themselves. It's really easy for somebody with pen and paper to sit at a desk whose kid is not dying from cancer. It's easy to put that on the back burner if you can put your blinders on, but the kids are paying the price for this. This is beyond. Kids should not be paying the price for government stuff, for legislation, for percentages and all of this paperwork bullshit. You know, it makes sense that there's governments and we're not saying government is bad. I want to put that out there. We're not saying government's bad. We're not saying the medical system is bad. We're not saying doctors are bad. We're not saying any of that. But there's clearly a problem here that we all have to work together on. And that's going to be a multifaceted thing. That means everybody needs to take off the friggin' blinders. That means people that aren't affected by this need to look and see what's going on and get involved. And like, and the kids shouldn't pay the price for it. I understand that government is there governing a large body of people and they have to make choices and some of the choices are hard. I get that. But the kids shouldn't have to pay the price for it. I draw the line there.
Well, and the thing is, if it was like in all countries across the world, nobody can figure out a better treatment for cancer. Like if that was a blanket across the world, all we've got is chemo and radiation. We cannot figure anything else out that's working. Okay. And so this is all we have. Okay. I'll buy it. We're all researching. We're all trying to figure it out, but blanket across the world, we can't find anything. But that's not the case. There are treatments I don't know I don't know exactly how they work, but like the immunotherapy, for example, like there are things that are gentler for kids. They're just not readily available. And that's
Mhm.
the problem. Is it's not that like if it was like literally like this is the only medicine we have, the only thing that works, and this is the side effects that come from it. Okay. Like sucks. Let's keep learning. Let's keep trying.
But
But
let's keep putting the money into researching it and figuring this shit out.
yeah.
Let's not just walk away from it.
I even
But
got
the
like
fact that there is stuff there that can make it easier, for kids. Like when you start, it's really easy to not look at the reels of the kids that are, you know, like that reel you shared of the, like that just hit me like a ton of bricks. That one, the little baby and she's puking into a bag and she's got her diaper on. And I'm like, like that little girl does not have to pay the price for the fact that we can't get gentler treatments in like, oh, that more
even
than 4% thing. Ugh,
even
come
though they
on.
exist, even though they
They
exist is the
exist. We
presto.
need to get this going. Like, I mean, oh man, we are
It's
fired up.
to be a little bit fair, I'm going to give a little bit of fairness, tiny little smidgen. They do that with many medications. This isn't cancer specifically, but that's the
No,
craziest part. That's the craziest part is like, so just
no.
small backstory. When we were in the NICU, when Theo was born, when they're premature, they give them like TPN, they're their belly buttons or whatever, their umbilical cord. And it's
What is
total,
TPN?
it's
Sorry,
like
say it
total
again.
protein something. It's like they can't give them milk yet because they're not breathing, so they give them nutrients through like like pretend nutrients. I don't know
And
what to
it's
call it.
specifically for early babies or NICU
Uh
babies?
Babies can't breathe properly because the more full their belly is, the harder it is for them to breathe. So
Oh, it's a breathing thing.
it's a
Okay.
breathing
It's
thing.
like, I
So
don't
they
remember that in the NICU, but
no, it's for like
it
when
was
they're
just
born, if
breathing.
they need to be on like CPAP or BiPAP or whatever. Like Theo was on
Oh,
CPAP when
okay.
he was first, or yeah, CPAP when he was first born
Okay.
because he
Okay.
was early. And
Okay.
anyway, so he was on that, and they came and asked us, like, do you want to sign off on this waiver to say that you can apply to be part of a study to see if we can bring this different way of feeding over here. And it was basically instead of doing the TPN, sorry, not instead of doing the TPN, when it was time to transition from TPN to milk, what they do now is like if you're getting X amount of TPN, then you get this amount of milk. And they slowly decrease this one and increase the milk until it's all milk and no TPN. Does that make sense? So it's like a slow transition
Yeah,
from
totally
like,
makes sense.
that's what they do right now. But
Okay.
what they were signing off to say is that instead of doing that, they'll just fully transfer over to milk. And this study says I think it's in the UK, I could be wrong here. In the UK, they started doing the full just switch to milk, no slow transition, and it works incredibly. Babies were
Oh,
thriving.
okay.
And even though similar medical systems, it wasn't just like, oh, hey, this is working in the UK. Let's bring it to our place because TPN's not as great as switching them just over to breast milk. Let's bring this here. They were like, oh, we need to trial it all here first. Make sure we get the same results as them. I'm like, it's literally milk. Just,
I'm confused. I'm confused because this is just like a protocol. This isn't
Mhm,
even a medication.
mhm, mhm.
Oh, that's all kinds of effed up.
And even though we
That's
signed
not
off
a,
and said, yes, let's throw us on that trial, they were like, sorry, you didn't make it on trial.
oh my God. And
What?
you know what? And you know what else? Like being a parent in a hospital with a baby or with a child, I should say. Now, this is something we never talked to about with our parents about, but we both know what it's like to be in a hospital with a child,
Mhm.
not anywhere near the cancer world, not anywhere near that. Like, we are not saying this is the same thing, but the fact that they were going to you in that moment, Sammy, and saying, like, bringing it to you, that to me is like, I get on paper that it's like we need the trials, so we need the people to sign off on the trials and we need but when you look at it on the other side of things, when you look at it from a parent's perspective, you're in the NICU completely overwhelmed. You don't know what's going on. You're trying to figure out what's happening with your child. You were doing the best that you can to stay like as sane as possible. You have a lot of questions. You've been thrown into the medical world, and now you have somebody coming to you and asking you a question like that, and you're like, I don't understand what. It is like it's foggy. It's like that the last thing you need to be worried about or thinking about is like trials so that they can push their system here, that a system that's proven in another country. Like that's absurd.
Just bring it. Like, just if it works
Just
and
do
kids
it.
are doing better, just do it. Like,
Just do it. Like, it's ridiculous.
I wouldn't have known otherwise. So what does it matter?
And you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to, like, gosh almighty. I just think that is like, let's think about what parents are going through when they're in hospital with their children, and let's not bring anything else to them. Like Heather talking about being, or I guess it was Carrie that told us the story, but Heather being thrown into this medical world, thrown into this cancer diagnosis, and then her phone beeps because she's got to go pay for parking. Like, come on. Or any of these things where like you don't have to add anything else onto it. You shouldn't have to add anything else onto this right now. So somebody coming to talk to you about something or sign off on something or trying to figure out how they're going to get their child to another province or to another state to receive a treatment that has been proven to be useful, not useful, effective. So a treatment has been proven effective. And here is a parent with their sick child sitting in the hospital trying to figure out how to get on a friggin' airplane and go somewhere else to get it. Ooh, that makes me mad.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get it together and get the medication and get the treatments to the patients. And I understand we don't know bureaucracy. We don't sit in an office. We don't have to figure out the logistics of this. I understand there's a hell of a lot more to it than we know about. So we're not coming from a place of sitting here knowing all the details and saying this. We're sitting here as two mothers and as two people who have sat here and listened to these stories and seen the hearts of these people telling the stories of what they've been through and saying something needs to change. It needs to get better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I have all the answers, but that shouldn't be the answer. The answer shouldn't be, trying to figure out how the heck to get your whole family down to Florida, or splitting your family up and half them being here and half them being in Florida, or figuring out how to get your child to Toronto, or all of that stuff. It just makes me insane. Like, I don't know what the answer is, but figure it out.
Yeah. Like, why is there a 6-year delay in treatments from the States to Canada? Like, why? Well, I understand being like, let's just double check and make sure this works before we bring it out. But I don't know why 6 years.
Oh,
why?
Totally. And
why is it 6 years?
Medical things that are medical health, like we have different things that we accept in Canada and in the States. Like there are differences. But again, with the bureaucracy of it, when we're two countries that are so close together in cultures that, yes, there are a lot of differences. However, they're not enough that the differences aren't differences that should affect cancer treatment. So if something has been accepted in the United States or if something has been accepted in Canada and proven effective for children, like get your butt in gear and get it going. Like it should not take that long. Like
especially because
6 or 7 year lag is absurd.
Yeah, I feel like we're going on this for a really long time. We're driving this point home. So, but like, I won't go into what I was going to say because we've got our point is said. What is the delay? Get your shit together.
Okay, so we're going to step down off our soapbox and we're going to try and calm down.
Stay up on the soapbox. I'm not going to calm down.
Oh no, you don't want to.
I don't want to calm down. No.
You don't want to step down off the soapbox. I thought that's what you're telling us to do.
No, I'm just telling us to move on to another soapbox.
We're just kidding.
Next soapbox. Yeah. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about. Okay, so this one is the book I was telling that I've been reading, so called Heart That Works, that I've talked about, and I'm reading it.
Talk about it a lot. It's good. Hey, you loving it?
It's good. Well, it's hard to say a story about a person's child dying is good, but first
No,
off,
it's
he's
well written is what I
well
meant.
written,
Like,
but also he's a comedian. He's a stand-up comedian, and it shows up in the book. Like the amount of times I'm sitting here reading this, and it's literally from like this like heart-wrenching moment, and like he is descriptive as shit in trying to make you feel as close as he can to what they felt in the loss of their son. So he's descriptive as shit, and also then you'll immediately turn around and he'll be funny. And so, and it's like you're having a conversation. It's not like you're reading a book, but it feels like you're talking to somebody because it's so comfortably written, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does
Anyways,
make sense.
there's two things I wanted to read from here. And the first one, and we've talked about this a little bit in different forms. He's talking about people's reactions to him saying that either his son died or his son was gonna die. And one of their nurses, and he was saying this is like the best kind of reaction that someone can give you when they give you horrible news. And so it says, I'm going to skip little bits here and there, but it says, I told one of Henry's night carers that his cancer had returned and that he was going to die. She yelled, "Oh no, oh Henry, oh Jesus Christ, no." She recoiled from the news like I'd hit her. "No, no, no," she continued. "Yes," I thought, yes. Her response was like water in a desert to me. And so he goes on to talk about like, this is how you respond when someone gives you tragic news. And like how whenever we tell our American and English friends, because they live in London, our American and English friends, these kinds of things, like their responses are not that way. And they're so hush hush about stuff. And I'm like, you know what? It's true. Because, and I'm guilty of it. I'm absolutely guilty. I mean, I've not had someone just be like, "Oh, my kid died," like out of the blue. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not been like a thing that's come to me. But I think that we can be afraid of reacting like that because we don't want our emotions to overpower the other person's emotions and how they're feeling. But at the same time, when someone actually reacts appropriately to the news that you've given them, it's very validating for the shit that you're feeling. And so like that to me is like it's a good reminder to me of like, yeah, fucking react. I'm terrible at reacting. You're the best person on our podcast because Melissa has the best reactions when people speak. And I'm always like, "Where's your reaction, Sammy? Have some emotion." I'm working on it. I'm growing. Internally, I respond. Externally, I don't so much. That's a whole other reason as to why. But anyway, so I really like that part because I think like I'm just saying this to you. Like when someone gives you shocking news, give that shocking news the reaction it deserves. Don't shy away from it. Don't brush it away. Don't excuse it away. Don't whatever. Like it's shocking news.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to be somebody you're not, but give the response that is like required for that.
Appropriate response.
Appropriate. Thank you. Appropriate. The other one I wanted to say, this is the soapbox one. This is the extra soapbox one here. Because like, so many of our guests have said this too. And so I don't mean to offend anybody. But it drives me crazy, the sentence of everyone's trauma is their own trauma. And like, it is true. It is valid. Everyone's trauma is their own trauma in the sense of like the worst you've experienced is the worst you've experienced. You can't fault people for that. But when people will compare their experience to your own, like, you know, you say my kid has cancer and someone else is like, "Oh yeah, like my kid had a cold once," and you're like,
well,
same.
Like what Claire went through at the event that she went to.
Yeah, don't tell them that your kid's cancer diagnosis is the same as your kid's ADHD diagnosis. Sorry, not the same. And I know you and I have had stuff where people will tell people stuff about whatever and they respond and you're like, not the same. And he sums this up very well.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it. Let's hear it.
Oh, it's so good. So he says, "We became receptacles for people's varied responses." And a short form of this part, he starts talking about how they'd rate them from 1s to 10s. 10s were like, that's the response we should receive, which is like the first one I talked about. And a 1 was like this one. So he says, "A memorable one I remember receiving involved a guy telling me his grandfather had also had a brain tumor, but he survived." Are you fucking kidding me? I wouldn't care if your 90-year-old grandfather got hit by 3 buses and then fell in a meat grinder. Grandfathers are supposed to get tumors and die. That's their job. What kind of shitty-ass grandfather isn't walking around loaded with tumors? Not one I want to meet. Grandparent deaths are like practice deaths, a step above pet deaths, to help you have the barest preparation for a truly painful death. And this guy's grandfather didn't even have the decency to die. What a pair of assholes. Like,
oh my god, I want to see if he has if he's on Audible. This is how I'm need sure to read my books.
It's good.
And
it's
then
so
I can
good.
Hear his voice.
But it makes me angry because people will say that shit. People will say, you know, people say like, "Oh, it is tragic when your parent gets cancer and dies." Absolutely, it is tragic for you. It is not comparable to someone's child getting cancer and dying. Like, tragic for you, not the same. You don't feel the same. Your dog dying, not the same. Your dog having surgery, not the same. Like, don't compare them. You can't even. And he calls it out so many times in the book, but I really just loved that one part. It was so good.
Oh my God.
Well, the reason it is heartbreaking. It is also very heartbreaking. It's so, don't get me wrong. I read out the funny parts.
Oh, of course.
I just want to say, like, the reason I'm reading it is because I'm like, first off, it's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I don't know anybody else who's written a book about the loss of their child to cancer. And so I was like, I want to read this because I know for me, with shit that's happened in my life, if you can read something that is validating to the experience that you've had, and like reading on paper how you feel. I've never done it, but reading on paper how you feel about something tragic, it's either going to be like too much to handle, or it's going to be incredibly validating, and you can be like, yes, fucking this.
Okay, can we talk about something kind of cool and beautiful? When it came out, in like, we're having all these conversations, and a lot of the people that we spoke to are connected to each other, and when it came out that Evelyn wanted there to be comfort items at the Tom Baker for kids going into, because like that blew my mind. Okay, first off, that blew my mind. The whole like, kids go to Tom Baker for radiation. Kids are going to adult facilities for radiation. That place is freaking scary. Like, first off, the hospital itself is quite dark and quite like so you're going from like, the children's hospital is so bright and so like, it's very, I mean, it's not the place you want to be, but when you are there, the way that they have built it is as comforting as a building could be. And the Tom Baker, like, it is it's dark, and I don't want to say dingy, like it's dirty. It's not dirty. It's just dark, and like, it's not inspirational. And anyways, and so for kids to be going into, like, my dad went through radiation at the Tom Baker. I have stood in that room, the radiation room. When she said kids went in there, I was like, what? Like, that room is friggin' scary. Like, it's very, like, it kind of feels like you're standing in the middle of a robotic, weird sci-fi movie. Anyways, it's a freaky room. Anyways, and so why I'm saying that is, like, when she was talking about Evelyn was wanting there to be, number one, a child life specialist. I kind of went on a little bit of a turn here. I will come back, I promise. But when she was talking about the child life specialist, have you dealt with child life specialists before?
No.
Game changers. Like, they are unbelievable with helping kids handle medical procedures and medical journeys. Like, they are just, my son had to go get some MRIs done. He went in to get his first one done and had a full panic attack. And when we left, he was like, okay, we have two options. Our first option is we're going to have to sedate, like, we're going to have to put him under anesthetic so that he can go back in. So of course, like, if there's a way to not put him under anesthetic, we're going to choose that first. So we're going to refer you to Child Life, and they have this mock MRI machine. You go up and you meet with this woman who is just like the most incredible, beautiful person. And she walked my son through what an MRI was going to do. They practiced the sounds, and he went into the mock machine. And the the tech that did his MRI was like, there's no way he's going to have to get put under for this. And she saw him twice she met with him, and he went back down there and rocked it after meeting with this twice or three times. Anyway, so child life specialists are game changers in helping kids go through medical procedures. And I have, again, like I never want to say it's the same thing. It's not the same thing, but I've witnessed firsthand what child life does on a very minimal scale. And holy cow. So having a child life specialist at the Tom Baker is like so good. And then the other wish that Evelyn had was for comfort items to be there so that kids could have something. Comfort items is like stuffies and stuff to make them feel better, you know, something that they can snuggle while they're going through their medical procedure. And the fact that they didn't have anything like that there is like, what? So anyways, when it came out that Evelyn said to her mom, Heather, that they should do something about this and they should get some stuffies there, they did the thing. And then Penn went in and got one of the stuffies from Evelyn's wish.
Really?
I mean, how? Yes, Penn got a fox from Evelyn. Catherine talked about it, and then the pieces got put together after. So we talked to Catherine first, and then we talked to Heather. And then when we talked to Carrie, all the things aligned. And I was like, oh, that. And then when I posted the reel about it, I think I posted a reel or something about it. And Catherine commented and said that Docs the fox that she talks about came from Evelyn. Isn't that wild?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, that is like some action happening. I just thought that was such a beautiful little, and Catherine, I mean, when she said, we grieve because we love, I was like, I need just a moment to let that sink in. So good. She has such a beautiful way of being. I mean, I don't know. I think that every guest that we had, I was just awestruck by the way that they carry themselves and the way that they express what they have been through and what they are doing to help other people going through what they went through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just beautiful. Anyway,
I think that's a really incredible thing that we see happening all the time with almost everybody is this desire to what they're working on isn't going to necessarily make a difference for their kids, but it's going to make a difference for somebody else's kids. And that's like huge heart thing. It's huge.
Totally.
That's really huge. Yeah. There's a beautiful community in the childhood oncology community. And it's like, I think Claire and Kristen both said this, like, I'd rather not know these moms. I'd rather not have these friends, but I do. And they're incredible. And I mean, Season said it too in her episode, how good the community is around their Thrive Through Cancer group. And it's, they're all there to support each other because they're all going through a very similar thing in different stages and in different ways. It's really, and like you said it a million times, but I think you said in our opening about how like you'd think that this would be really hard stories to hear, and they are hard, but there's also so much learning and beauty and I know that they've all been in my brain a lot.
The duality thing is striking to me, that it's duality in this too. The duality is it sucks and it's brutal and it's awful. And then there's this like, it's almost like if I had a visual, it's almost like flowers growing through the cracks of cement, you know, like it's this really hard and awful cold thing. And then somehow this beauty can come from it. Somehow every person that we spoke to is searching for and clinging to a joy, a hope, and they are doing what they can to perpetuate that, to water it and help it grow, and to help pass it along to the next person who needs to see that there's hope in this, and that there's still love here, and that there's joy here, and that there's that it's not just all darkness.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, that's human condition. That is why we're here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think everybody can learn an incredible amount of stuff from these cancer families.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had written down, I wanted to show this to you because I thought this was so cool. I was like going through my notes and trying to like get like, okay, because I wrote down takeaways. I mean, I have got notes upon notes upon notes because I just, every time we were having a conversation, I was like, like at the top of Dominique's page, it actually says at the top of Dominique's page, what the shit? Right at the top of the page when she was talking about her son being on the same medication as her grandfather and her son being on a medication that was developed in 1947. What the shit? Anyways, but this was on Kristen's page when we were talking to Kristen, and it says, functional nutritionist, get on pod. But right there. And we did. And it was season. And she's amazing. And I was so happy that we got to have that conversation too. Like that was such a cool way to like get some unique perspective on all of this. Mm-hmm. But yes.
Yeah. I love how much we had different perspectives, you know, like each and everybody every person in general in the world has their own perspective on things. But there was Carrie, who's a childhood cancer survivor. There's Season, who not only had a child who went through cancer treatment, he went through cancer treatment years ago, and she's a functional nutritional therapist and doing work in that area to help oncology families. And then there's Claire and Dominique and Kristen, whose kids all recently are either finished or are finishing up their chemo treatments and are currently on maintenance. And then Heather and Catherine, who are bereaved parents those children had gone through cancer treatments. And we were so close to having a sibling of a cancer survivor on here, but things got rescheduled and we weren't able to make the conversation happen. Maybe in the future we'll have them on.
Yeah,
it's hard to I almost feel this sense of like, I don't know if guilt is the right word. I don't know what the word is. Like, just like, I hate that we had to have all these, we didn't have to, we got to have all these really cool conversations because it breaks my heart that there's so many people working through childhood cancer diagnoses. But I'm also like so glad that we have them and are going to continue to have them to help raise awareness and be another voice and hold space for those voices. Because I was thinking about this, like Rob Delaney in his book, he talked about when his son was first diagnosed. They were living in the UK. They still live in the UK, but they were living in the UK. And he got a call from, I can't remember if it was a UK website or newspaper or an American one. Can't remember. But somebody called him saying, so-and-so from the newspaper or whatever, the news, heard that your child is going through cancer treatments. Would you like to comment? And he basically responded with, if I see anything about my son having cancer right now in the news, I will personally come down there and murder all of you, is basically what he said. And nothing got printed. And what I was thinking about when I heard that is like, when somebody, a public figure of any kind, has a traumatic life event happen, people listen, people step up. And not only do people listen, people are asking questions. They're getting on podcasts, they're getting on the news, they're getting articles written about it. People are talking to them probably more than they want to be talked to about it, but maybe they want to be talked about as much as they are. I don't know. But and I say that because anybody who, again, Rob Delaney says this in his book, if people ask me about Henry, it's my favorite thing. Talk to me about Henry. Please talk to me about Henry. And every person I've talked to who's lost a child who's had a child pass away says, talk to me about them. Please talk to me about them. Nobody wants to talk to me about them. And not just about their sickness and their diagnosis, but who their kid was and as a human. And so like, that's the thing that I've really had to learn is like, ask those questions. But anyways, what I was thinking about in us holding space for this, and I kind of said it on stories once, but like, I want to be that space to ask those questions to the people who want to answer them, to the people who want to talk about it, because when you have something bad happen to you, nobody wants to talk to you about it. And I want to be that space for anybody who does want to talk about it, because yeah, like not everybody's a public figure, and not everybody gets to talk about it like they do. And I just want to hold space for that. And so that was like really important to me when you notice how many things he's on talking about this. And
like all the kids matter, all the stories matter, whether they are in public eye or not. Every story is equally valid.
Every parent deserves to
100%.
speak about it if they want to.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to say, but this is like not specific to childhood cancer, but sort of. But between SMA and Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, I am just like in awe of our community small businesses. Like I am in awe of how many of them are showing up. And like, I mean, like I bought from small businesses before a little bit here and there. Like I tried to when it was like I could financially make it work. Like it was great. But what I'm seeing is like there's different small businesses and they're at multiple fundraiser events on the same day.
Yeah.
In different months and same day and like multiple months in a row. And so it brought to light a new thing to me about the cost of purchasing small business is it's not just buying a great product from someone's family. It's also helping that person rally behind causes that they believe in. And, you know, whenever they're doing a fundraiser, I'm sure they take some profits depending on the fundraiser, but a part of it goes back to whatever the fundraiser is for. And they're doing this a lot. And it's really beautiful because like I said on stories, you don't see Walmart and Costco and Home Depot and those things showing up to give funds. And maybe they did when they were small businesses, but they don't now. And it would be great to see a big business doing that.
Rally behind this cause.
This cause, this cause specifically, but not just like maybe if you talk to people who run Home Depot, they'd be like, oh, like we give this much of our profits to this charity. Cool. But like show up. Don't just send the money.
Be there.
Show
there
up.
Too.
Show people that you do it. We don't know. Nobody knows if you're just sending money, which is great. This one's a really weird way to talk about it, and I don't know how to talk about it. Here we are talking about childhood cancer, and I don't know how to talk about this ridiculous thing. But when you're running a podcast, and like we've said, we started from the ground up, and we've got no background business. People are like, oh, like you run a business and you're starting a podcast. So like, it's not like we just had followers coming off the bat. Like we've had to grow, and we're still very small. But I just want to be really honest about this piece because you watch your numbers. You watch to see what happens. You watch to see how many followers you gain, how much your reel gets shared, how much it gets liked, yada, yada, so on and so forth. And, you know, I watched in SMA Awareness Month, and there were some. And I've watched in Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and there's been a lot. And, like, this actually makes me want to cry right now. Not because I'm happy, but because it makes me so sad how many people are fighting us and are fighting childhood cancer. Almost every single follower, we've gained almost 100 followers in half a month. And they're all families. Not very many things make me cry, and I'm literally crying right now.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked because like I'm the crier.
I cry. It just breaks my heart how many people are having to find more things because they're also the ones fighting childhood cancer. And
they're looking for a place to have their voice. They're looking for people to listen. They're looking for people to pay attention and to help them and to help give a voice to their kids.
And and it's hard because it's not hard. It's ridiculous because I'm like, this is awesome that we are the space that people are finding and hopefully helping. But like, I know that 100 followers is not a lot in the grand scheme of followers, but almost 100 followers in less than a month. And because of childhood cancer, and it's people finding us because that's what they're fighting and that's what they're up against, and they're trying to fix that. And like, there are so many that we don't know. And you think that like we are so close to a cure for SMA, and we gained maybe 20 followers in the month of SMA Awareness Month. We've gained almost 100 in half a month for childhood cancer. And there's not even close to a cure. There's not even kinder, gentler treatments yet. And so it's like, this would actually impact so many people. And it makes me emotional because, first off, it makes me sad for those families, but it also makes me sad because I'm like, I don't want to be excited about these followers. I don't want to be. I wish
happy
they were
to have them.
happy to have them
to follow along, but
I wish they weren't there
because you wish that they weren't going through what they're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so that was like a thing that I've been thinking about a lot. A lot.
Yeah, totally. Anytime that somebody's following along, it's not, we don't take that lightly. And yeah, I agree. It's like, it's more stories of more people that need people to speak up so that their kids can get better treatments. So this is all about, really, is like I still go back to that first. I think that was my first shocking. It came from Claire. It was the very first episode in talking